Hello, and welcome back to the Your Life, Your Way show. I'm your host, Kathleen McDermott, and I have a lovely guest with us today that is going to help all of us caregivers have some tips and techniques and solutions and methods and support in navigating the holidays as a caregiver of a loved one. I have with me today Debbie Compton, and she is a compassionate three-time primary caregiver for parents with Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and vascular dementia. And as a speaker, she brings hope, laughter, and caregiver to dementia issues, easing the stress of her audience. And I personally can relate to the stress of this whole process. Since 2017, Debbie has been a community educator for the Alzheimer's Association and a certified caregiving consultant and certified caregiver advocate. I'm going to ask her to tell us a little bit more about herself. It is, you can see she's also an author and has written so many books and given so much of her heartfelt self in helping herself along her own journey, but also helping the rest of us who are navigating this path and eventually might be navigating this path. So, Debbie, thank you so much for being with us today. And I am so honored that you're having this time to share with us your journey and how you can help us with our journey.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's just doing what I do is not what I set out to do, if that makes sense.
Mm,
I was in business traveling coast to coast, and my plan was to retire with that company. And I had been there for 15 years, so everything was on the path. I didn't know enough, excuse me, to recognize the signs and to know what was going on with my parents. My mom had vascular dementia, which took a long time to get her diagnosed. And we ignored a lot of the warning signs because we didn't know them. We didn't have the knowledge that we needed. And so, anyway, it seemed to me from my side that I was traveling coast to coast. Life is great. Parents are needing a little bit of help here and there, but no big deal. I fixed their medicine boxes. They're good to go. Everything's fine. And then it seemed like suddenly overnight, I was on the East Coast and dad accidentally took mom's pills and he had low blood pressure. She had high. And so he was nearly comatose and had to be rushed to the
mm,
hospital. And then I was on the West Coast when mom passed out at the Daily Living Center and had to be rushed to the hospital. And I started going, what is happening? Because we had just gotten dad diagnosed with Parkinson's, but I didn't even know enough about the disease to know the progression and to know how much worse it was going to get and to know what was coming. And so I couldn't prepare for it. So I kind of felt like this sweet little moose right here. Just, "Whoops, what is happening?" It felt overwhelming, but with all the knowledge that I have now and the training that I've gotten now, I realize it didn't just happen overnight. I just didn't know what to watch for, and I didn't recognize those things as signs of types of dementia. And so then when my mother-in-law developed Alzheimer's, it was like, okay, I give up. I cannot work and travel and take care of three loved ones. So I became a full-time caregiver, did not know what I was doing, did tons and tons of research, couldn't find the research, the information that I needed. For example, dad had Parkinson's and he had hallucinations with it. I'd never been around anyone who hallucinated. I had no clue what to do. So I started researching, and all I could find was don't argue with him. Well, that's great as a starting point, but that doesn't help. I found tons of information about what's going on in his brain, but to be real honest, I couldn't care less at that point what was happening in his brain. I just wanted to know, how do I deal with it? Somebody
yeah.
give me the information that I need. And so that's why now you fast forward in my journey, I got my certifications as a caregiver consultant and caregiver advocate after two of my loved ones passed away, because my mom was the first diagnosed and the last to pass away. I just lost her in September, and she had vascular dementia for 21 years. So, and the other two were much quicker. But after the two of them passed away, then I got the certifications. Then I learned a lot of things that would have been helpful had I known sooner. And so that's what I really focus on. That's why I wrote my very first book, is to help caregivers, to give them information that I wish I would have known at the beginning, to tell them, hey, This is what's coming. This is how you can prepare. And I did it from the standpoint of all three of my loved ones that I was caring for. So the first is talking about Alzheimer's, and the second is talking about Parkinson's, and the third is about vascular dementia. And there are similarities between the three. They're all forms of dementia. So there are similarities, but then there are differences. But then that's the same with people. People are all different before they get the disease. They're different after they have the disease. So it's not a cookie cutter system, but I try to get people information and tell them ideas and suggestions, hopefully two or three, maybe four sometimes, different options that you can try, because my whole mission is to make the caregiver's life easier, less stressful, and to avoid that burnout and to remember to laugh again.
Some days that's hard,
It
but
is.
it's also a practice.
It
Yes.
is. Yes.
How
It's a muscle.
you and I are doing a series. We're going to do a few episodes so that we can, there's so much information for you to help us with and to teach us and guide us on that we can't do it all in one. We really can't do it all in two. We probably can't do it in three. But so we are going to do a series. Today, I would love to, because we are right smack in the middle of the holiday season. And I know I just had a wonderful Thanksgiving, traveled to North Carolina. My mom and I traveled to North Carolina and spent the time with my sons and extended family. And it was just lovely. I am in a early stage of what I don't know. I just recognize that there is memory change, cognition change, and a lot of this began, I know, with her hearing loss because she went so many years without hearing aids. And we know that tends to shut down parts of the brain as well. We are speaking with doctors and whatnot, but I don't know where we are right now. So I'm in a very early stage. And as I was just saying to you before we got on here, that it was so nice for me to be with family at Thanksgiving because I got to be off because I'm always on. I always feel, as women, we're
Yes.
on, but I mean, there's certain situations in life that you just are on 100% of the time. So this was nice. So I would love to have you share. This is going to be our Navigate the Holidays as a caregiver with your loved one. What can you offer us to help us through this season so that caregivers can find some joy and peace in the season as well?
It is so important. And I'm so glad that you asked me to do this because it was a struggle. I had mom at the house with family wanting to be around in the middle of COVID. And so we had all those extra restrictions in place as well.
Mm.
But even with that, there are things that you can do. And I learned something through that that is beneficial regardless of the season. And that is, someone with dementia is easily overwhelmed because they hear all the sounds and all the noises. We can prioritize. For example, if there's a bird chirping outside, I can ignore the bird. I can block it. It's not a priority. A person with dementia cannot. All sounds are equal. So if you have the TV on and you're trying to have a meaningful conversation with your loved one, it's not going to happen. They're going to get distracted. They're not going to be able to focus. So do them a favor and yourself. Turn off the TV, turn down the music. You don't need holiday music blasting to make people feel well. It's great for a mood enhancer, but it can also be very distracting for your loved one. And so that's what I'd really like to challenge caregivers to do is think like your person who has dementia. Look at what you're doing. It might have been fantastic in the past. We had big family gatherings. Everybody came to my house, and it was people and noise and kids running and all the
Mhm.
things. But then that became too much for mom. So I made a change, and we had an adult gathering with just the adults. We still had a gathering with the kids and things later. And then, but when it was in the summertime, and if people are in an area where it's warm for Christmas, they could apply this to that point in time. I had the kids' table outside. And so
Mhm.
then the adults were inside. That was less noisy. It didn't make mom so nervous because she liked seeing the kids, but just the noise and the confusion made her nervous and made her anxious. And then you cause all sorts of problems.
Mm.
So that's the first one is watch out for those distractions, minimize those. And you can also I'm
Oh, go
sorry,
ahead.
you can take it further if you want to have meaningful conversations, if you want people to be able to talk to your loved one and really connect with them.
Mhm.
Have mom go sit in a different room. and then let them go in 1 or 2 at a time to talk to her. Then you can have a private conversation, you can actually she can focus, you can focus, and it's much more meaningful that way, and snap a couple of pictures while you're in there.
That's a good idea.
Mhm.
Interesting. And when you were saying, and these are great points, having to change, make adjustments, let's just say make adjustments, because the
Mhm.
dynamics are changing.
Yes.
And we are such creatures of routine, of habit, things that we don't even realize it's just what we do. We just keep, and I find that has been a challenge because I'm so used to just she's been with me since 2017, and we've had our routines and how we interact with one another. And I find it's hard sometimes and she'll say, remind me, well, you have to get closer to me. You have to, and I think, yes, I know, but I'm so habitually doing, if I'm and I have an open space, which makes it harder for her to hear. And if I'm just over the bar into the kitchen and she's just over the edge in the living room, it's still harder for her to hear. And I find I just start conversations and she's not able to process the words and understand what I'm saying. And I
Mhm.
find sometimes, and I get frustrated with myself because like, okay, yes, I have to make these adjustments. But again, it's a process and it's a practice, but it does cause stress for both of us.
It does, but one thing in that too is don't be so hard on yourself,
Ah,
because I did that too. I've been there, and it's easier for me to tell you don't do that. I did it. But I learned from it that and really the person who taught me this lesson, this is really interesting. I was doing an interview for Straight Up Positive, which is a Teepa Snow interview, and I was so excited to be on the show. And one of the interviewers is living with dementia. She has Lewy body. And so, anyhow, I said, I made a lot of mistakes with dad. There's a lot of things I should have done differently. And she called me on the spot right then and she said, "Stop it. Stop what you're saying." And I was like, "Okay." And she said, "You did the best you could with the information that you had." And she says, "You obviously love your dad. You obviously care for him. You obviously want the best for him. So stop beating yourself up with that. You did the best you could." And I was like, that was so powerful.
yeah.
It just really hit me. It was like, "Oh my goodness. Here's a woman who's living with this disease and struggling to communicate and then telling me, 'Knock it off. You did the best you could.'"
Oh, and it's true. We are and with what we know. And someone like yourself who has been through it and is now serving and teaching others how to move through this tough time of life. Um, and it's helping me already because
Good.
I can see now that Thanksgiving I would have probably done maybe couple of things a little bit differently, but we don't know what we don't know. And that's just it.
Right.
But once we know, then we have the opportunity to do better and do different.
Yes. Yeah. Let go of the past. It's
Hmm.
okay. It's over. You can't change it. Just determined to do better in the future. And that's healthier for you, for your mom, for everyone.
What about there are always extra activities, even if downtown we have a tree lighting, we have extra Christmas parades, we have Hoofbeats Christmas parade, which is my favorite, and mom's as well. Um, how do even though we tried, there is still a lot of guilt, but there's that I want to go, but I want to be here and I want to take my loved one, but they necessarily can, or we have to make the guilt, as long as we're on that topic, of trying to navigate what is that it's okay for the caregiver to go out and do something on their own, holiday season or not. But right now we're talking about the holiday seasons. Go down to the tree lighting or go to the parade. If you have support,
Mhm.
how do you help? How did you navigate? How do you help people navigate a situation like that? That it's okay to get out of the house during the holiday season and go
It's a
enjoy.
tough one. It's a tough one. It's so hard because we feel like we have to do everything ourselves. And we feel like no one can take care of them as well as we can. Well, then when you step back and look at it, that's a little bit of ego going on there too. But I'm speaking hard truths to you. I'm sorry.
No, please.
But I was the same way, exactly the same. And, my brother, I have an older brother and a younger brother. And my younger brother is the one who really taught me that lesson. because he wanted to help, and I said, "No, it's okay. I got it. I can handle this." Because I had my Wonder Woman cape on, and I got this. I can do
We
everything.
all do.
Yeah, there you go. I got it. I'm fine. And he said, "Deb, don't rob me of my blessing." I was like, "Oh, wow." Because how do you feel when you give to someone else? It makes
Wonderful.
you feel better. Yeah.
Mhm.
And you are blessed by helping other people. He was offering to help me, and I was saying, "No, no, no," but it would have been a blessing to me and to him. And so just that sentence caused me to go, "Oh, wow. Okay. All right. You can watch her." And you know what? She did fine. They all survived.
No one died. Yeah,
No one died.
that's my saying. I didn't die.
Exactly. And there are ways but sometimes you have to adapt too. We used to walk through and look at the lights. We didn't do that anymore. We adapted and we did the drive-through where you
Yeah.
drive through and look at the lights. That way mom sat inside the car, we all did, inside the car, warm, so she's happy, but still seeing the lights, so she was happy.
Mhm.
So just find some adjustments. Some things have to be adjusted, but then as a caregiver yourself, this is a really toughie too. Self-care is not selfish.
No, it's not.
I had to write that on a postcard and hang it up on my fridge because I couldn't get it through my thick head. Self-care is not selfish. But the other way to look at that is you can't pour from an empty cup.
No.
You may think that you're the one and you do give your mother the best care that anyone could. I understand that. I agree with that. I'm not arguing with that. But she's not going to die if someone gives her a little less care for a short time so that you can recharge. And then it benefits you and her because when you're exhausted, when you're worn out, you're facing burnout, you're not the best caregiver. Then at
No.
that point in time, you're probably not the best person to care for her. And that's hard to hear and that's hard to accept. And I didn't plan on this to be so harsh today, but I don't know why. I just feel like it's coming out. Um, but but share the load. Share the load with others and let them be blessed as well. Um, I had to do this. I was like, well, I don't have any help. There's nothing I can do because I have siblings, but two of them live out of state. One lives in state, my younger brother I was talking about, and he helped when he could, but he works all day long. So, I'm there with mom all day, every day. And I didn't want to burden him at night. It's like, well, you got to rest sometime without realizing, oh, I needed to rest sometime too.
Mm.
See, I have needs too. And that's what we tend to forget because caregivers are giving people and we give all of ourselves to those that we love, but we got to keep a little back for ourselves and we've got to find a little time to recharge ourselves. And there's lots of ways you can do that. And so that's where I started to say, I realized I go to church and there are seniors at my church that are mentally capable, but they don't drive anymore. And so I got to thinking about it. And so I called one of them and I said, "Hey, would you like to come over and watch a movie with my mother in law?" And I said, "You don't have to do anything, but if you'd like to watch a movie." And they said, "Yeah, I'd love it. That'd be great." And I said, "It would really help me." So I loaded up my mother in law. She was the one living with me at that time. Loaded her up. We went and picked up this sweet little lady, brought her back to the house. I set the two of them on the couch, start the movie. I went and soaked in a hot tub. We did it another time when I went out and
Nice.
gardened because I
Nice.
love gardening. It refreshes me, it blesses my soul. So I went out and gardened. I was still there. If anything happened, I was readily accessible. I could help, I could intervene, but they were happy as little clams sitting on the couch watching a movie.
That's a
And you know
wonderful
what?
idea.
Isn't it great? Because that
Yes.
other little lady was so blessed too, because I needed her. She was able to be useful and meet a need
Mhm.
again. So it made her feel wonderful to help me out. And it was fantastic. It was like, wow, I should have thought of this sooner. This was
That's
great.
wonderful. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah.
Let's, if we may, is there anything another thing that changes is the way we eat during the holiday season. The food is, ooh, the pies, the cookies, and the
Yes.
entrees. I mean, everything is just wonderful. Is there anything that we need to be aware of as we care for our loved ones and where they are in their stage of life? Is there anything around meals and the seasonal changes of food that we might need to be aware of during this time?
Yes, a lot of stuff. But I think the main thing, depending on where you're at in the disease, early on in the disease, we do ours, sorry, I back up a little bit. We do ours buffet style. I have a big, long L-shaped counter. And so I put all the food out on the counter and everyone goes through and fills up their plate and then goes to sit at a different table. Because we have about 30 people that get together. And so that's the style that we use. So I always have my parents go first and my mother-in-law and fill up their plate first when they're early in the disease. As it got harder, balance became more difficult to hold the
Mhm.
plate. I would hold the plate and then put the things on it that they wanted as we progressed through the line. As it got worse from that, I would just sit them at the table and then I would fill the plate because I knew what they liked and bring it to them. So everything has to adapt. It's continually adapting and changing. And that's the important part for caregivers is that you have to remain flexible. You have to be able to adjust. Let go of that's the way we've always done it because that doesn't apply anymore. And it's not their choice. They cannot help it. This disease is killing sections of their brain, not just shrinking like we used to say, it's actually killing parts of their brain. And so you can't reteach them. They can't relearn it. You deal with where you are. And there are little things that you can do to make small improvements and stuff too. But for the overall picture, you just have to accept this is where we are right now and make the adjustments that you need to. And then as things progress later, you'll probably need to be helping them eat and avoid sharp forks, avoid sharp knives. And to spare their dignity, for example, with dad, I would cut his turkey while I was up at the counter, cut the pieces and things, cut it into bite-sized pieces before I ever took the plate to him, because it's demeaning to him if I'm sitting there cutting his food in front of everyone. It's embarrassing. So think again, walk in their shoes. How's it going to make them feel? And make those adjustments that that loved one needs. And each one of them is different. Everybody's different. More finger foods allow them more independence, so they can pick those up to eat by themselves without you having to spoon feed them, which again can be embarrassing. So just give them little things that they can pick up when you're later stages of the disease.
And the holidays does present itself with various finger foods.
It
So
does.
a good opportunity.
It
Is there
does.
anything else that we're not thinking of at this moment, whether it's Christmas morning, whether it's New Year's Eve? Is there anything that you think might be important that we should include in this episode regarding the holidays?
Um, I think that I would say don't exclude them. Just because it's more difficult, don't exclude them. They want to be around loved ones. They want to feel love, even at the late stages, even when their verbal skills are gone, they can still feel and they still feel those emotions and they still love a good hug. Everyone needs hugs every day. So don't separate them and exclude them. Include them as much as you can. To I included them in almost everything. The few things that I did not include them in are because it would not have been enjoyable for them. For example, loud band performances and stuff that just and huge crowds. They wouldn't enjoy that. Maybe someone else might, but just know your person. The best thing that you can do for them is really learn that person that you're caring for, learn their likes and dislikes about food, music, dancing or not dancing, everything. Learn everything that you can because then as they're unable to communicate it, it's okay because you already know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I think you've given us some wonderful tips to navigate the holidays during this time of life. And if you could give us, we want to give everything away. We don't want to give everything away, but just maybe one or two points that we'll be getting into in future episodes.
There's so much to talk about.
Yeah.
So many things. So we need to, at different stages of the disease, different things are effective. And so there are ways to avoid caregiver burnout that are very important, things that you can do even if you're a solo caregiver all by yourself at home. And I alluded to that one tip that I gave you, but there's more. There's a lot more. Um, and then ways to minimize your chances of getting dementia as well, because we tend, don't we worry about that? We're,
Yes.
yes, you forget one little thing and you think, oh my gosh, I'm getting
Yeah.
dementia. Yes, so I'm going to give you actual action steps, not selling a supplement or anything else that doesn't work. I'm going to give you action steps of things that you can do to improve your brain power. So
Wonderful.
that's a few of the things we're going to talk about and more.
I'm really looking forward to it. I love how the universe just brings things together if we're willing to pay attention and see and feel and hear those signs. And you and I happen to be in the same webinar or workshop one day. And as soon as you introduced yourself, I went, oh, I need to know her because I'm in this phase and I don't even know where we're going with it. And I had no, but I have learned one thing or I have felt one thing. And I've also heard other people say this in a Facebook group that I have gotten into that as a caregiver, you feel, even if you're not, you still feel very much alone. And I know this is my journey to walk that I
Mm-hmm.
have to do alone, but I don't want to feel like I can't talk to anyone. And you can't, it's very hard to, I'm finding, to talk to people who've not been there yet because they don't know what to say and it causes them stress. So that's something too that in
Yeah.
future episodes I'd like to talk about that because I think that is something that we deal with as caregivers that
Mhm.
it's if someone had, and I didn't know before. Maybe I've
Right.
said some things to people that are making me now go, ooh, because we don't know.
That'll happen.
So,
Exactly. Exactly. Well, and that's one of the reasons I do one-on-one Zoom consultations with people, because everyone feels like their situation is different from anyone else. And there are some different situations and there are different family dynamics. There's a whole ton of dynamics going on too, which kind of makes it challenging in a meeting like this to do a blanket, to cover everybody, because in the one-on-one Zoom consultations, then the person could tell me their exact situation, support groups, how their
feelings.
person is, their feelings, their emotions, the whole bit, and then I can give them solutions tailored to meet their needs. And so that's why. And the other thing that's fantastic about doing it on Zoom is that you don't have to get your loved one dressed and up and out. You don't have to worry about getting them somewhere on time. You don't have to do any of that. Schedule your meeting while they're sleeping, if they normally take a nap at 3 in the afternoon, schedule your time to talk at 3 in the afternoon. And if something comes up and you have to change it, guess what? I'm a 3-time caregiver. I understand.
Mm,
It's okay. We just reschedule. But I
yeah.
guarantee you, you'll leave feeling better than when you came in.
Wonderful. With that being said, and I will have you share in each episode, I would love to have you. Is there any special offerings that you want to share now? But I also would like to share, if there is that, and also how people may get in touch with you.
Absolutely. Yes, I created a special little tool for this, and I'm trying to look at it because I can't remember what I named it. Uh, Making the holidays less stressful, and it's for caregivers. And so it's just a simple, um, not checklist, but it's sort of like that, just a simple little organizational page giving you action steps that you can take to reduce your stress during the holiday season. And number one on that list is lower your expectations, because
Mm,
so many of us tend to be perfectionists and we want everything just so. And again, I'm talking to the crowd. It's me right here. I perfectionist all the way. I want things a certain way. I want everything to look perfect. And I host the big family gatherings, and so I had to let go of that. And I had to realize that, you know what? People are coming to enjoy each other's company, to love on one another. They're not coming to see how beautiful my decorations are. So it's okay. Just take some of that stress off your plate and lower your expectations a little bit, and you'll relieve your stress right there. But
Wonderful.
I'll give you the link to that so
I'll
that
put
they
that in
can
the
get
show
that.
notes.
Mhm.
Wonderful. Make a note so I don't forget. And how may they find you? Website or
The
email
Purple,
or?
yeah, The Purple Vine is my website, thepurplevine.com. I have, there's free resources on it. There's a blog where you can read tons and tons of articles that are helpful information, useful information to caregivers. And then I have an email list that they can sign up for. And I only email once a week because caregivers don't have time to read an email every day. I know
Mm,
that, but they need help. So I send a concise, not a big, long, overwhelming thing, but just a concise email once a week specifically for caregivers. So they can sign up for that on my website as well. They can email me at deb@thepurplevine.com, and you can email me to set up a consultation. First consultation is totally free, so you can see if you like it or not, see if it's something that might work out for you. And then if you do, then great, and we'll get you scheduled. And you don't have to schedule long in advance either, one at a time. So because life changes, you got doctor's appointments coming and going. Again, I get it. So it's okay. I've had folks, and I don't recommend this, but jump on my calendar in the morning for that afternoon. And I'm like, oh, okay. But I'm just here to support caregivers in any way that I can. And I also created an online learning, a little training thing that's all videos that you can watch at your
mm,
own convenience whenever you're ready for it. So, and these books, this one, the most recent one, The Caregiver's Advocate, A Complete Guide to Support and Resources, is an international bestseller. I'm so
wonderful.
excited. I
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm so excited. I gathered 20 authors from 4 countries because dementia knows no borders. It's a
True.
worldwide epidemic. And so I gathered people from 4 countries to write about their specialty. And I told them the criteria: no fluff. I don't want steps and stages of the disease. You can find that anywhere online. What I want are action steps that caregivers can use to improve their life. And that's what this book is full of. And I think that's why it flew to #1, because it's just get to the meat of it and tell me the information that I need, because that's my style. I don't mess around, as you saw.
It's beautiful, and we're very grateful for
Yeah.
that. Well, as we've
Thank you.
mentioned, we are going to be back with more information, a couple more episodes regarding the journey of caregiving, excuse me, for a loved one. So please, if you know of anyone who is on this journey or maybe foresees the journey and would like to have more information, please subscribe and be on the lookout for soon to come more episodes. And I thank everyone for being a part of the Your Life, Your Way community. Everybody, just have a marvelous holiday season to the best that you can. Enjoy, go easy on yourself, give yourself a whole lot of grace and compassion. And we will see you on the other side. Namaste.
Merry Christmas.